Hello and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be my May reading recap. So let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, I want to apologize for my voice. My student's parting gift to me was a nice head cold, so I'm fighting that off. But we're going to go ahead and film this video nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and start off, as I always do, by giving a rundown of my least favorite to my favorite book of the month. Then I will give you some overall reading stats. And then I will share a tiny little book haul because I did pick up a few books in May. So let's go ahead and start off with my ratings from my least favorite to my favorite. So we're going to start off with number 10, and this one is going to cause some controversy because this is a very beloved book, but y'all, I didn't love it. And that book was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I gave this one 2.5 stars. I just found this to be not at all engaging. I did not feel any kind of emotional connection to anybody or anything that happened in the book. I felt like it was a little overly long. The parts that I did enjoy the most were like the look into how video games are developed, but I just didn't care about this book. So, least favorite book of the month for me, but I know it's very beloved. To each their own. This one just didn't do it for me. Coming in at number 9 is Whisper Down the Lane by McLeod Chapman. I did a full reading vlog on this book. I'll link it up above, but I did ultimately give this one 3 stars. It was very unsettling, which is what you want from like a psychological horror, but the subject matter just hit me a little too close to home because it revolves around a student making a false accusation towards a teacher and the subsequent fallout of that. This gets its inspiration from the Satanic Panic, the McMartin preschool trial. I'll link some of that information down below. I was not well versed enough with what that was about, so I was not prepared going into this book. So if you're gonna read it, I would really recommend checking out that backstory and also trigger warnings, because there are a few of them. This was the May pick for the Literally Dead book club, and I didn't love it. So 3 stars for this one. At number 8 was the 17th Nancy Drew book, The Mystery of the Brass-Bound Trunk by Carolyn, Keene. I talked about this one a little bit in my final book support group vlog, so I'll link that up above and down below. But basically, Nancy, Bess, and George are on a ship headed to South America, Buenos Aires specifically, and whilst they are en route to this, her luggage keeps getting mixed up with this other girl's luggage and a mystery ensues. So I liked this one a lot. I did read the original 1930 version. You can find all of them on Internet Archive, which is pretty cool. So if you want to read the original Nancy Drews, check out Internet Archive, but I did give this one 3 stars. Coming in at number 7 is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is very quick. I listened to the audio because the author does narrate it, so I would recommend that. I enjoyed this one. The message obviously is very relevant, very important for people to read. I did find portions of this slightly repetitive, like he repeats himself quite frequently, but I did like kind of the metaphors he was using to explain what it's like to be a Black man in America or a Black person in general in America, and it was very impactful. I would recommend, but I did give this one 4 stars. Coming in at number 6 is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larsen. This is a tale that talks about the Chicago World's Fair, but also a serial killer who was kind of killing people at the same time as the Chicago World's Fair. It's basically 2 books in one. You have the history of the fair, everything that went into creating the fair, the people who were responsible for the fair, and then there are chapters that talk about the serial killers who went by the name H.H. Holmes. And yeah, I found this interesting, but the chapters about the serial killer. There was a lot more guesswork involved because he never actually came out and admitted to everything that he'd done. So the police had to do a lot of work and kind of figured things out. So some of those chapters are a lot more fictional, but the Chicago World's Fair parts were very well researched, and I found it quite interesting to listen to how the fair came to be, the master plan, the people behind it, that kind of thing. So I did like this. I'm giving it 4 stars because it wasn't as tight of a book as it could have been because it had those 2 stories in one, but I still did enjoy it, and this book is on my 23 in 2023 list, so we can check that one off. So now we're going to go ahead and get into some books that I vlogged about in that same Final Book Support Group vlog. So the next one up at number 5 is Hermes, Tales of the Trickster by George O'Connor. This is the 10th book in his Olympians graphic novel series, which follows Hermes, obviously. I did enjoy this one. I gave it 4 stars. If you want to hear full thoughts, check out that vlog. Coming in at number 4 was the 12th book in the Olympian series, which is Dionysus, the New God. This is also obviously by George O'Connor. Now I am going to go ahead and just hold up the back of this. So these are all of the books in this series. This was the final one. I liked this one a lot. Dionysus is a god I am not as familiar with, so it was nice to get some of their backstory. And I did give this one 4 stars as well. Coming in at number 3 was the second book from my 23 and 2023 list that I had on my May TBR, and that was Lovely War by Julie Berry. Now, I'm a little disappointed because I really thought this one would be a 5-star for me. It was a 5-star prediction. I did really enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars, but I did not, again, feel as much of an emotional connection as I was expecting, considering the subject matter. This is the story of 2 couples told through the voice of Aphrodite as she is trying to explain what she is all about, like what she means when they call her the goddess of love, the things that she does. And we have cameos from other gods as well: Hades, Apollo, Hephaistos, Ares. So I did really, really enjoy this. The Greek mythology aspect is always something that's going to intrigue me. But again, didn't find this as emotionally impactful as I was expecting, so I could only give it 4 stars. At number 2 was one that I just read on a whim, one that had been on my radar since it was released, and that is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I really liked Reckless Girls last year. I gave it like 4.5 stars. This one was in that same vein, just very fast-paced, very easy to read, nice mystery. You have 2 timelines. This is about 2 friends who go on a trip to an Italian villa, and while they are there, they are trying to kind of sort out the truth behind a murder that happened at that same villa back in the 70s, I believe, and some things that ensue from there. Lots of twists and turns, particularly at the end. Didn't see it coming. Really, really enjoyed it. 4 stars for this one. I would recommend it. And then at number 1 was my lone 5-star of the month, and that is Hephaistos, God of Fire. This is the 11th book in George O'Connor's Olympian series, and I really liked this one, y'all. I liked the way Hephaistos was portrayed as kind of like a gentle giant, someone who just wants to create beautiful things, wants respect from the other gods on Olympus, and I really liked this one. So, highly recommend the series if you like Greek mythology. They're super quick to read. They're only about 77 pages each. And this story in particular was told through the voice of Prometheus, who steals fire from Zeus and brings it back to humanity. So it was just kind of an interesting way to tell Hephaistos' tale, and I really enjoyed it. So this is my lone 5-star, and that's the end of this very quick wrap-up. Okay, so now let's talk about my reading stats for the month. So in the month of May, I did read 10 books, as I just went through. 4 of them were audiobooks, 1 was an ebook, and 5 were physical books. This broke down to a total of 2,491 pages read. Not my highest, but not my lowest. I did have all those graphic novels in there, so obviously that brings the page count down just a little bit. For genres, I had a nice mix of genres. So I had 3 mythology books, 2 historical fiction books, and then 1 each of horror, contemporary, nonfiction, mystery, and memoir. For my series count, because May was a Final Book Support Group readathon month, so I did continue 1 series with the Nancy Drew, and I finished 1 series, which was the Olympian series by George O'Connor. And then to break down the authors, I read from 4 new to me authors, which were Gabrielle Zevin, Clay McLeod Chapman, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and Julie Berry. And then I had 4 returning authors as well with Carolyn, Keene, Erik Larsen, George O'Connor, and Rachel Hawkins. So overall, not a terrible month in terms of stats, not my best, but considering that it was the end of the school year and your girl was very tired, I think that that's not too shabby overall, and I'm happy with the amount of books I read, just perhaps not as happy with the breakdown of the ratings. Obviously, I would have loved to have more 5 stars, but there's not much I can do about that except hope that June is better. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the books that I picked up during the month of May. There are a few of them, so let's go ahead and dive in. So one of my pre-orders that I placed back in the end of January, beginning of February came in May because it came out in May, and that is Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. I've talked about how I love Greek mythology. This is another example of that. I'm looking forward to reading this. I have not actually read anything by her. I have the other ones as well that she's written, and hopefully I can get to one of them soon, but I did pick this one up as part of my haul in February with my Christmas gift cards. Another pre-order that came in was Happy Place by Emily Henry. So I did go with the paperback version because I have paperbacks of all of her other books, so I did get this off Book Depository. Rest in peace. This shipped like right before they closed, but I'm looking forward to reading this. The only book I've read by her is Beach Read, but I really, really liked it, so I'm hoping to get to the rest of her books at some point this year. All right, the next book up is my book of the month pick for the month of May, which is The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brammer. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I apologize. It's one of those. This is about a girl who kind of takes it upon herself to become a death doula, as in she sits with people who are nearing the end of their life and helps them through that process. And it sounded interesting. I'm hoping that it's an emotional read. It sounds like it should be. I like emotional reads, but as you saw with my recap this month, some emotional reads don't hit me the way they're meant to. So hopefully this will be one that does, because I'm very excited about it and hopefully can get to it soon. Then I also picked up Loathe to Love You by Ali Hazelwood. This is a collection of her 3 STEMinist novellas. I was going to read them all separately, but then when I realized that they were bound together, I went ahead and picked it up. This does break my book buying ban, but you know, we're gonna let it slide because I do really want to collect all of her books. I like that this is in a paperback so it can sit with all of her other books on my shelf, and hopefully I will enjoy these. I have heard some mixed things about them. I do not think that I will read this all in one go. I think I'll do like one story at a time, but I am looking to read each of these stories at some point this year. I'd like to kind of knock out all of Ali Hazelwood's books altogether. I loved The Love Hypothesis, but I have heard that the rest of them are not quite as good. So we'll just see what I think, but I did pick this one up as well. And then the final book that I picked up, I got through a gift card, and that was Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. Now, this was supposed to be on my May TBR, and obviously I didn't get to it because the library's hold list for this book is ginormous, and I know it's because there's a show based on it, so I went ahead and used the gift card to pick it up from Amazon because I kind of just figured I'd go ahead and get a physical copy, but I did not have time to actually read this. I will read it at some point this year because I have a general rule not to carry books over into like the new year, so if they're on my TBR, I do get them read at some point in the year, even if it's not in the month I meant to. So you will see this eventually, just I didn't get to it in May.